Just give me your rundown on, you got two schools of thought on, let's just call it a barn steel panel, right?
Mhm.
One, fastening on the top of the rib or on the lower part of the rib, and the actual grommet on the fastener, if that's changed over time, preventing leaks, how long should those fasteners last?
Let's take the first one first.
Right.
On top of the rib, it came from the nail industry.
Hi to YouTube, it's your buddy Ian, general contractor, and here is the premiere episode of What Are You Working On? It's a video interview show where I talk to someone in the building products or contract or trades about what they're working on. It's pretty simple. And I just had a great extended conversation with Randy Chaffee here, which you're just about to watch. Quick tip, if you're interested in a specific topic, check out the chapters down below and you can go to a specific point in the conversation and hear exactly what you'd like to listen to. If you want to know what happened in that teaser clip, click down there on the conversation about fasteners and post-frame construction. Hope you enjoy this, and we'll see you soon.
Welcome everybody to an inaugural episode of What Are You Working On? And today we're here with Randy Chaffee, who has what I think is a pretty long and storied history in the building products, post-frame metal building products world. So we're just here for a little chat. And Randy and I met, real quick story. I went back and looked at the dates, Randy. May 2020 is when you sent me a first message, just a little info on your stone-coated shingle product, right?
Right. Okay. That's right.
Yep. And we were going back and forth since then. That was right before the pandemic started. Long story short, just we both had a lot of things going on, but you checked back on me. I really appreciated that. And we just reconnected like a lot of people are doing with, let's call it true post-pandemic era, getting restarted on things. So glad to be connected. And I just kind of want to give you the floor because I'm very intrigued to hear your story about your journey in the building products world.
Well, thank you, Ian. You know, and I was so excited when you reached back out because, you know, I tend to not, I'm not a stalker, right? And so, you know, I reach out to somebody and unfortunately in today's world of texting and messaging and LinkedIn and Facebook and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You get a lot of stalkers and I hate that. It's like if I don't respond or I tell you that I'm not interested, that probably means I'm not interested. And
right.
And the constantly beating on me to get me to respond to something that I've already told you I'm not interested only drives me the other way, right? And so
yes.
It's like I appreciated the fact that you got back with me, but no, I got intrigued by you, Ian, when I saw some of your videos out there that you were doing, because you're obviously a guy in the industry, which I'm always interested in connecting with. But I loved the videos, and I loved how they were simple, short, right to the point, and gave real value. And so that's how we ended up meeting. So I have my morning go juice. Sorry.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, you're completely right. I was just kind of scrolling through LinkedIn just a minute ago, and like we were talking about before when I was on your show, I just like putting meat out there, like actual, usable, immediately graspable information, just simply about, like I said, like fixing rotted wood on your house. What should I look for when I'm thinking about buying a roof? You know, there's a lot of, I don't know, fluff, right? And if you can hand people, even in 1 minute, legitimate information about their house, it just goes a long way. So yeah.
Well, it does, and there's a real need for that. And excuse me. Yeah. So you know, you'd asked. I've seen all these things happen, and I've been around a while. You know, I use one of my monikers on things is 4+ decades in the industry, and that's very accurate. Well over 4+. But I've enjoyed this industry. You know, I got started back on the farm with my dad.
Okay.
You know, somewhere close to 1 million years ago, I think. And you know, it was a cash crop farm, had a few dairy cows. You know, just the typical little family farm. But that's where I really learned relationship building, because my dad got into first selling seed corn and wheat and soybeans and that kind of thing. And I learned early on from him about building relationships, doing what you say you'll do, appreciating the customer, taking care of the customer. And that stuck with me for years. And we eventually got into construction. He started building grain bins and those kind of things, and then post frame buildings. And so I kind of grew up in the industry that I'm in. I like to think that it's because I'm just incredibly smart at what I'm doing, but it's probably
Yeah.
just that's because that's what I've always done, right?
Sticking to it, right?
Yeah, I've done it for so long now. I mean, why would I change? So, I've been blessed, and I really do feel blessed to love what I do and do what I love.
Yeah.
I'm involved in the building materials industry, representing products in about 10 states. For the post frame building industry and the metal roof industry.
Right.
And so it's been a great ride, and it's a ride that I mean, I had no intentions of retiring from or stopping. As a matter of fact, I look to do more because it's kind of the juice, of what I do. And I think that's important to be doing stuff. If you love what you do, I work a lot. I mean, I'm in a hotel room right now in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Okay.
I'm gonna drive when we get done with this. I got 2 or 3 Zoom calls to make, but I'm gonna make them via the road, because I'm gonna stick my phone in my little holder and go, because I literally have 5.5 hours of driving to get to where I want to be this afternoon and evening to be with another customer. So
okay.
I live in the hybrid life is what I'm doing.
Right. No, that's what you were saying last time, which I found so intriguing. So you are, let's just stick to your story a little bit. So how did Source One Marketing, ibuyfromrandy.com get going? What's the story there?
Yeah. So when I left my dad in the business, when we left that or stopped, he went out of business, closed it up. I had to do something. At the point in time, I went to a lumber chain and worked in sales, selling buildings and decks and houses, packages, and that kind of thing. Really enjoyed it. And then after a couple of years, our store was below, or a better way to say it, the corporate offices at the time were above the store that I worked at.
Sure.
And so I saw these guys in their suits coming in and out, and they're purchasing agents, they're buyers, right? Knew them all, nice guys and ladies. And I go, I think I want to wear a suit. I want to be one of these people, right? This looks cool. And so I approached them, the upper management, and they had an opening, and I went out and bought some suits and come strutting through the first day with my suit and tie on, and I was feeling pretty cool. And I learned a lot. Really, to fast forward that part, I learned a lot during that 2 or 3 years, 4 years of being a purchasing agent, all in products, and still in the same industry I'm in.
Okay.
And I learned the other side of the desk, if you will.
Yeah.
Which was valuable. But the real valuable lesson I learned, Ian, is that I wasn't doing what I loved and loving what I do. I didn't like it. Nothing wrong with the company, the people, the product. I just didn't like being on the buying side. I liked being in the sales side of things, helping people get what they want and need, right? Kind of a Zig Ziglarism. And excuse me. So I had an opportunity when I became a company guy for one of the vendors that called on me, and worked that route for a while, and enjoyed that. But then I had an opportunity to pick up some other companies to rep if I became a rep, and I convinced the company that I was with as a employee to allow me to become a 1099 rep.
Okay.
And then picked up these other companies, and some of them I still am with, today.
Okay.
And so that's when Source One Marketing started, because my goal at the time was to literally be your one source, or source one, for all your product. Now, do I have them all? Of course not. Play on words, but and that's how I got started. And the ibuyfromrandy.com kind of came about, Ian, when a point in time, many years ago now, but the idea that I thought I needed a website, because websites were becoming kind of what everybody had.
Yeah.
Nobody in doing what I did really had one, so I thought that makes sense. I'll have one. No idea, so I hired somebody to put it together, and it's been revamped several times. But I said, what am I going to name this thing? Obviously, Source One Marketing LLC is fine. I mean, that's my business name.
Right.
But all of a sudden, it struck me as, what's the most important thing for me to have which is I buy from Randy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
.com or
Yeah.
.net or something. Right. So
Right.
so that's where that came from. It was really as simple as that.
Yeah. And truthfully, much easier to remember than typing in Source One Marketing. Obviously, people are going to be clicking on a link, but yeah, I went over there, of course, multiple times and scoped it all out. And so could I buy, as a contractor, everything I need for a post frame building from you?
Well, excuse me. Yes and no. Probably everything that you would need, you could find or find a source for.
Yep.
I don't sell direct to the end user. I don't sell direct to contractors.
Okay.
I actually very, very seldom even sell direct to lumber yards. Occasionally there's a few that are grandfathered in from way back. My target customer, Ian, is the metal roll form companies that manufacture the metal roofing. Or post frame supply houses that supply the trusses and the lumber.
Okay.
And so then they buy my products to sell along, like fasteners, for example, and vent material.
Yes.
Barn door track, those sort of things. They buy that and sell it with their package.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
But I do support, and that's something that I've been doing more so in the last few years, as you had mentioned, rolling through the COVID pandemic lockdown world that we went through. I made major transitions during that time.
Right.
And one of the things that I try to spend a lot of time with is promoting and helping other people grow their business as well. Because we're not in it, I'm not one of these that get real wrapped up in the flowery, we're all in this together, kumbaya and get the violins out, right, type of guy.
Certainly.
But with that said, as an industry, we grow together or we don't grow together. In metal roofing, for example, we've been experiencing some really, really great growth as an industry.
Right.
The more that grows, the better it is for all of us in any aspect in the industry, because none of us will get all the business. None of us could handle all the business.
Right.
So if we make the pie bigger, whatever our piece of the pie is, just, by osmosis, if you will, it just becomes bigger, right? So if you don't buy from me, that's okay. Obviously, I'd prefer you did, but if you don't, that's okay, because as long as, in my mind, as long as you're staying on the metal roof area, as long as you're buying metal from somebody, then at the end of the day, we all win. And so that's, I try to be, I try to promote, all products, even if they're not products that I supply.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's clear from going through your LinkedIn that you're definitely all about helping promote other people, and especially things going on in, the metal roofing post frame building world. Yeah. It's actually intriguing when you get into the metal roofing world and you start going to the trade shows, you realize how small that world actually is. I mean, many people from all over the country tend to know each other. There's not, for example, 1,000 companies that are making snow stops, right? It's a handful of people, and most of them know each other. Everybody knows what everybody else's product does, which I kind of like. I mean, I don't know if I'd say tight knit, but it's a group of people that tend to know each other. There's nothing really, I'd say, like vindictive about it. It's all just, we're all kind of out here kind of doing the same thing. And yeah, so, okay. So talk about your work on a daily basis. How often are you on the road? How often are you talked about being hybrid. So have you gone to something like 50-50?
It is. I can't put a number to it, but that's probably close now.
Yeah.
Rather than 50-50, it's more what needs to be. And it all depends on the time of year. There's times a year that I'm much more on the road a lot.
Okay.
There's times a year that I'll work from home more. And then this time of year right now, I'm rolling in. I'm coming off a couple of weeks from working from home, and we can talk about that. But in my mind, what being hybrid has allowed me to do is I don't miss a beat when I work from home.
Right.
I mean, I actually have more customer touches a day, 10x, working from home, doing
Right.
things like, well, but not only just phone calls, but doing things like this, doing my podcast, being on other people's like yours today, doing Zoom meetings and Teams meetings with people, Google Meet, whatever platform you use. I'm and video text and video emails. I'm just with a lot more people, but the whole hybrid thing came about during the pandemic when I couldn't travel, because I'm an old school road warrior. That's been my life. My life
Yeah.
for 4+ decades has been out every week, at least 3 nights, sometimes 4 and 5, all over 10 states, 12 states. Basically, bro hugging and burgers and beers and kissing babies, right? I mean, doing the relationship building in person. Excuse me. And then when the COVID thing hit and couldn't travel, I had to reinvent myself.
Yeah.
And I reinvented myself to all virtual at the time. I was doing 2 and 3 live shows a week, podcasts, guesting on anybody that would have me, all kinds of stuff. Really ramped up the social media presence.
Yeah.
Because I had no place else to go. I couldn't go anywhere. And but then as we started getting back to traveling and then being able to freely travel, I travel quite a bit again. Like this, for example, right now I'm on the next 3 months is kind of a very hybrid type of thing, because both from a travel standpoint, I'm every other week right now. Not that it was planned that way. It just works out with association shows, trade shows, customer open houses, those kind of things. I'm every other week right now for 3 months, almost like clockwork. I'm on the road 4, 5, 6 days.
Okay.
Then I'm home.
Okay.
But the hybrid part of it is when I'm home, I'm doing a lot of this kind of thing.
Yeah.
When I'm on the road, well, right now as we're filming this, I'm in a hotel room in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Right.
And was here yesterday with customers, dinner last evening with customers. As soon as we get done, I'm literally going to pack this in my bag and I'll be driving for 6 hours, talking to customers, doing several Zoom calls from the road with the phone on my little windshield mount.
Right.
Because I got to travel, because I got to drive, because I've got dinner and customer meet tonight with a customer up in Ohio. So I've got
Okay.
drive,
Wow.
so Southern Ohio, luckily, and then I'll be at a trade or association show Wednesday afternoon, evening, and Thursday for one of the trade associations that I belong to. And I have a little talk to give there about this subject of hybrid selling.
Okay. Okay.
So that's kind of my weeks. It's and the beautiful thing with hybriding, which is something I'm all about right now, or have been, is it's a combination back and forth. It's old school glad handing, bro hugging, and technology, and it can go from one to the other and back and forth in a moment.
Okay.
And it just offers Ian so much flexibility.
Right.
And it opens so many doors. I'm dealing with a good friend of mine out in Montana that's buying some of my product, lots of my products, and I've never been out to see him.
Okay.
And I know him from Ohio, and we talk all the time. We Zoom, we video, we do whatever. So we have is it as good a relationship, or is it as good as maybe showing up, bro hugging, going and having a burger and a couple brewskis in the evening? Of course not.
Right.
And we will do that in the spring, go see some customers together. But my point is, it can be done, and the doors can be wide open. And I've got some great customer up in Maine do the same thing. I travel up there once or twice a year, not every month.
Yeah.
Because it's a long ways to go. It's a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of cost.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just what you can accomplish over a screen. I mean, obviously, as you said, I've done the roadshow thing for many, many years. There's a lot to be said for getting in person with people, getting into the details, seeing facilities, seeing customers. I mean, that's the real world. I'm curious about when you say you changed to hybrid. Did you experience a lot of frustration right at the beginning that was something you realized you had to do, or was it more like a light bulb?
Well, a combination of both, actually.
Yeah.
When the real lockdown hit, we all remember the 2 weeks thing that we quickly realized it was not. It was at one point I was like, truly, maybe I'll never travel again, right? I mean, you just feel that way.
Those are times I'm trying to forget. Really am.
I exactly. So I had a situation, Ian, where this is what I do, and now I can do it.
Right.
And so I grasped at straws, if you will. I watched a bunch of seminars and webinars and bought books and joined some online groups. And I really tried to figure out, what do I do?
Yeah.
At least for this time frame.
Yeah.
Whatever this time frame is going to be. And as I dug into it, I started guesting on some podcasts. I enjoyed doing that. And so I started doing videos online. I started doing videos and sending them to customers instead of just emailing them. I send them an email video, showing them product or here's a quote, right? And lines 4 and line 7 are the 2 products you're the most interested in right now. I went ahead and put some other whatever it was.
Yes.
And so quickly, within months, there was two different camps that started to develop. One was I'm going to wait until this whole thing's over and just go back to normal.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
And I'm going, I don't know that we'll maybe ever go back to normal, what you think is normal. But more importantly than that, I was starting to figure out some things that were force multipliers that I don't know if I need to go back to what you're considering normal, right? Go back to some degree, but not where you think it is. What with these people that in this camp, right? And then the other camp was, you're never going to travel again. This is it. It's all going to be us sitting on this little box and never travel. And I'm going, not in this industry.
No way. I mean,
right?
There's some true road warriors out there, and that's kind of the history of sales in this business. I mean, not just this one, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It's actually very strange to think back on the time when we were all very up in the air on like this idea that there's going to be this concrete thing that's going to happen and it's never reverting back. And humans need humans. We're social creatures. That's just the way it is, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so you had 2 camps of people, and it sounds like you kind of decided how you were going to make it work.
Well, yeah, exactly. And the term hybrid came to mind, and that's what I talk about hybrid. I use one of my monikers I use a lot and everything is hashtag hybrid Road Warrior Randy, because I used to just call myself Road Warrior Randy.
Right.
But it's a hybrid version. As a matter of fact, I think I mentioned to you the other day, I'm a couple months away from, hopefully, if I ever get a chance to write when I'm on the road, finishing a book. Talking about that exact thing, my journey. I think it's going to be The Journey to Hybrid.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about exactly what we're talking about here. So the final piece was, or let me go back to hybrid. See, what we talked about earlier, my dad was a Pioneer seed corn dealer.
Right.
Well, Pioneer was Pioneer hybrid seeds.
Right.
Hybrid, taking this and putting them together and coming up with something better, hopefully, right? And that's exactly what I did. Is I said, I got to do something different because I want to travel again. I can travel again. I need to travel again. But not only do I love the virtual part of what I'd been doing, but I saw all the benefits of it. It was tremendous benefits. Right. And so how do I marry those two, right? Or hybrid those two? Yep. And that's what I've been working on the last couple of years, is really hybriding the two to combine. Sometimes it's, like I said, it's always hybrid. There's no true, this is what I could say, there is no true old school Road Warrior Randy anymore.
Right.
He is gone, because I will still do the old school Road Warrior type day, but it's always going to involve some hybrid, more new world virtual, if you will, like doing stuff like this, doing Zoom meetings on the road,
right.
doing numerous posts. I mean, I don't go to a customer and not post about it, right? I don't do anything without saying where I'm at, what I'm doing, promoting friends and pals and buddies in the industry.
Right.
And so I'm always hybriding all the time.
Right.
I will do a more old school part of it, like this week. Will be is about as hybrid as you get. In 2 weeks, next week I'll be working from home, and that'll be 100% new school, if you will, because I won't be traveling.
Yeah.
So I'll be doing, I as you were on my podcast not too long ago. I rack them and stack them when I'm home. Do 2 or 3 in a day.
Right.
Get them ready to post. I've got 2 or 3 guest appearances I'm going to be on for some people next week. And just a lot of social media, a lot of posting things to have ready to release at a later date.
Right.
Those kind of things. And on the phone talking to customers all day long.
Yeah.
So I found if you think in that mindset, I will, by 9 o'clock in the morning, have touched, if you will, in some shape or form, hundreds, if not 1,000 people.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
And then I realized I should probably go put some pants on. I mean, because it opens the door, man.
You're exactly right, and I feel like the people I know who have embraced that, and it could be a lot of different things. It could be the hybrid. It could be my kind of perspective is like, all right, so got up today, I'm thinking about this talk we're having, but what I'm really thinking about is I'm going to have this recording. I'm going to do a little bit of work on it. Then I'm going to be able to put it on LinkedIn, put it on YouTube. It's going to have chapters. So if you want to just watch a certain part of this talk, that'll be easy to do. Everything about you is going to be there. Everything about me is going to be there. And like I was saying to you before, the magic of the thing, as you know, is it's just going to run in the background. If somebody wants to watch this in the middle of the night and find out about the two of us and Post Frame and your product, and that's the magic of the whole thing. And truthfully, it's like you're saying about the hybrid work thing. It's about, at a certain point, just embracing it and just putting something together. I mean, I sound like a broken record here, but this thing I keep putting on LinkedIn is just I'm kind of just talking to contractors. Just take your phone out of your pocket, film a video, and put a video up. And you don't even really need to have a goal in mind. If you just start putting a little bit out there, I just look at it like there's no reason not to start building a library of content. Even if you never make the videos public and they're just for yourself to go back and watch, you got them sitting there, right? It's just too easy now not to pull this thing out and record something, because you don't need a camcorder now, like it's the mid 90s or something. You can just do it. So first of all, I do want to say we're about to hit half an hour. Let me know about your time frame. Obviously want to make sure you got plenty. Okay, so I had this thought as you were talking about your customer in Montana specifically, but so what are your customers talking to you about now?
Right now, it's the good news is everybody, for the most part, is accustomed to and beyond the supply chain hiccups, disasters that we had. Doesn't mean they're fully fixed, because they're not, but they're much better. I will say they're incredibly better. But one thing that I think if we're cognizant of, Ian, this is one thing that I learned over these past 2 to 3 years, is even when bad things are going on, and that was not a good time, right? This last 2 to 3 years was not a good time at all.
Yeah.
But there's always something, if you're aware and you pay attention and you adjust and you adapt, you can learn and become better out of. And we talk about this whole hybrid thing that I've been working on has made me way better. But secondarily, I think as manufacturers who I represent, and as customers that I work with, really both, they've learned to become better managers of their business. Because they had to, because we as a supplier could not take care of you.
I see.
So you had to be able to take care of yourself because we couldn't, and they knew we couldn't, and they knew it wasn't our fault, but it still was the issue. It's like they learned to manage their inventories differently. They learned to put systems in place to keep themselves out of trouble, because they knew they couldn't always rely on any of us in the industry to always do what they expected us to do, because we literally, if it's on a boat from Ireland and the boat's setting out in the Gulf someplace, it can't get offloaded, it doesn't matter whether you want it or not, and it doesn't matter how mad you are that I can't get it to you.
Yeah,
we're not getting it to you until and we have no control over that.
That's really intriguing. Yes, absolutely. I really had not thought of that, but that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And we as suppliers have done way better of not putting ourselves in those situations. And I say put ourselves, we didn't put ourselves in a situation, the situation put us in it.
Right.
You could not have forecast that those sort of things would happen.
Right.
You can't sit there and build 3 years worth of inventory, because there might some goofy thing happen that we haven't even thought of that'll shut down the supply chain. You go out of business doing that, right?
Right.
You can't do that.
Right.
And it hit that hit so fast too. It went from the water running full speed to busting a pipe off in a day almost, right?
Right.
And so everybody had a learning experience. But one of the things I think whether it's customers or manufacturers in my world, the same thing has happened to them that's happened to me, and I think it's very important, is I learned a lot of adaptions. I've adapted a lot of different things that we've already talked about. But the most important thing is I've become an adapter. Not the things that I've adapted already are important.
Yeah.
But I have learned that change can happen almost literally in a second.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think all of us have been better prepared, or I hope we've become better prepared, that when we see something again, whatever that something is, and probably whatever comes down the pike that's a disruption, and they always are disruptions, right?
Yes.
We will be quicker to identify that we maybe need to start looking at what are our options, what do we need to do differently, what do we need to do better, but not be afraid of it. See, by nature, I think human nature is to be afraid of or hate change. And because we become comfortable, and as people, I think our goal is to be comfortable. But it's talked about a lot in the world of inspiration and motivation, ad nauseum, as they say. But I think there's something to be said for being comfortably uncomfortable, right?
Yes.
You have to know that. Okay, just because this idea, and I guess this is where I want to say, always done what we've always did.
Right.
We're always going to do. That's what we've always. So some of the most dangerous words for us personally or for a business is, well, that's what we've always done. Well, why do you use that? Why do you do it that way?
Right.
Well, it's because we've always done. That's what Grandpa did, and that's what Dad did, and that was probably great for them. But it's now 2023, and maybe there's a better way. And so let's just look at it. If we look at it and decide it's not, and most importantly, that I found, going back to my whole theme of hybrid, I guess, but maybe there's a hybrid way of doing it. Maybe it's not 100%. A used to be what we did. B is the new way that everybody's doing it. But maybe there's C, right, of A and B, and we find our own combination that works for us personally, right?
Right.
And so that's the biggest thing I've learned, and the biggest thing I challenge people is be an adapter.
Right.
Learn to adapt on the fly, and adapting may mean I do part of it this way, but I'm not doing it all, because everything you told me to do, Ian, that makes sense, except for this one part I don't like. I'm not doing that, right?
Yeah.
I just disagree. I want to do it this way. That's okay.
Right. Yeah, but it's definitely personal to a certain extent how it works for you, but I think adapt or die is kind of
exactly
a little bit of what you're saying there. That's just the way it needs to be. And so you'd say most of the supply chain issues in your product lines have cleared up?
They're better.
Yeah.
They are. I wouldn't say they're 100% cleared up, but they're partially just better in general.
Yeah.
But also I know from a manufacturer standpoint, we've learned, as we just said, they've adapted and had enough time now to adapt
Right.
that we filled the pipeline quicker. We've found other sources for raw materials or backup source that we never thought we had to have.
Right.
Whatever the case may be, it's partially because things are just better.
Right.
The 6 months, 9 months to get a certain product from offshore someplace is not now. It might be 2 or 3 months instead of 6 or 8. But we've also, as manufacturers, have got better at forecasting that, beefing inventories, finding domestic sources, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
We just got better at managing that. And together with our customers, as I said, we've learned to manage expectations better with our customers or together. This is what we can do. To give you an example, a product with one of my manufacturers is aluminum based. Aluminum's still tough. That's an area that's still tough. So we're suggesting to customers right now and offering them a little bit of a deal to buy early or buy now, because it's going to put you out of a jam come busy time of the year again, when this product's a little in short supply, right? A little hard to get. So it's a matter of managing expectations. I think guys in the sales side of things, I think sometimes we're afraid to deliver bad news, so we don't deliver any news at all. I think that's a habit that you need to break if you're in the world of sales. As hard as it may be, bad news is still always better than no news.
Oh, absolutely.
But you just got to tell you, dude, I don't think, if I'm serious, if you don't order this now, I may not have it for you next month.
Right. Yeah.
And or we're I had to tell guys, I remember this, and then we both laughed afterwards, but I remember telling a customer during the heart of the real supply issues that he goes, "Where am I going to get my product?" And I said, "When you hear the Jake break out front and the air and you look out and you see a semi sitting there," he goes, "So what you're telling me is you don't know?" I said, "There you go. I mean, that's the honest answer.
Right.
I don't know." He goes, "Well, can you tell me like within a couple weeks?" Again, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that transparency just goes such a long way, because there's just no gray area at that point. The customer knows you don't know. That's absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's so much you're talking about here about just I think the theme of this is what it takes to adapt and what it takes to decide that you need to adapt.
Yes. And once you do that, like I said, the key there is to just transparency has probably never been more important in the last 2 or 3 years. And I think that's one of the things that we've learned. And I think we got to guard against, as hopefully we continue to move forward, that we don't fall back on bad habits.
Yep.
Because I think the transparency and managing expectations, whether you're a contractor, right? You have to manage expectations with your homeowner all the time, right? This is how this is going to play out. And the more honest you are, I'm sure, with how this is going to play out, here's some of the pitfalls we could have. Because if you don't, well, you told me you're going to have this thing done in 3 days. Well, no, if you remember, I said it's going to take 3 days to get this. And you manage those to where they understand. Because I think as a sales guy, and we're all in sales, no matter what you do, everybody's in sales. Period. And people say they're not in sales. They say, "Do you have a significant other?" And they say, "Yes." Well, you didn't get them on your good looks and dazzling personality, buddy. Right? You sold them on the advantage of having you in their life, correct?
Right.
So you got to manage that expectation. And we're not perfect, and things aren't perfect. And something could go wrong. And we're afraid. You don't want to oversell the fact this is going to be a mess.
Right.
But at the same token, if I paint this picture for you, that you buy, let's call it, say, fasteners, big part of what I sell.
Okay.
If I paint the picture to you that you buy fasteners from me instead of my buddy, my friendly competitor, you will never have an issue ever in life.
Yeah, right.
Then you're going to be mad at me before long, because guess what? As good as we are, we're going to have mess ups.
Right.
We're going to misship something. We're going to, a batch got through that didn't get caught, and there's an issue with paint or an issue with a drilling tip or something. Everybody has those. It's part of the deal. You can't avoid it. You do the best you can, and you do very well. But the problem is, if I paint this expectation that never, ever in life, I've done it for 30 years and nobody's had a problem, you are going to be mad at me sooner as opposed to later.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Or if I just explain, look, are you guys we're good. We're very good. I think we're top of game.
Right.
But are you asking me, will I ever not mess up?
Right.
Yeah, I will. Yep.
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah, truth and transparency goes a long way. Yeah, this is kind of even like taking this to another level for the metal roofing geeks, nerds, people in the trade that are listening to this. Let's just get in the weeds on fasteners for a moment. And
sure,
a lot of people are going to fall off, but that's kind of what I like about this kind of stuff is if I'm watching this, I'm like, holy cow, they're actually going to talk in detail about fasteners. So just give me your rundown on, you got two schools of thought on, let's just call it a barn steel panel, right? Mm-hmm. One, fastening on the top of the rib or on the lower part of the rib. And, just even if it's a bit of a sales pitch, the actual grommet on the fastener, if that's changed over time, preventing leaks, how long should those fasteners last?
Okay. Let's take the first one first.
Right.
On top of the rib, it came from the nail industry.
Okay.
Back in the day when you had neoprene washered nails, and you put it on top of the rib because nails by nature will work themselves loose, because if you think about it, they're not screwing into the wood fibers. They're basically driving a shaft into the wood, and it's
right
by nature. As see, a metal, and especially the longer the panel, even the worse it gets as far as the panel moves.
Right.
Not that you see it, but the panel moves and deflects from temperature changes, winds, snow loads, those kind of things. So as that happens over time, that nail can loosen up a little bit.
Yeah.
So the reason that they would go on the top of the rib is that gives you a 3/4 of an inch out of that waterway.
Okay.
To get that screw out of there. That's where that all started. At the start of fasteners, when fasteners started being used, and I go back far enough that when I was building with my dad at one point in time, way long ago, we nailed, because that's what everybody did.
Yeah.
And then this newfangled weird idea of let's use these screws came into play, and we started to do it.
Yeah.
And we started putting them on top for a while until a screw manufacturer we was buying from at the time kind of helped us understand that it wasn't necessary and didn't make sense. So we'll talk about why. I will never tell anybody don't do it,
right? Because
I'm not going to tell you what to do as an installer.
Yeah.
The metal guys probably, maybe I'll be the one to tell you that, but metal guys or fastener guys, we're pretty much in concert on the fact that if you're asking me a flat out question, I will tell you I would not put them in the rib. Right. You don't need to anymore for the reason that you did it, you don't need to.
Right.
But because the screw, if you think about it, and there's different types of screws. There's fine thread, there's a very coarse thread, which mine are, or there's combinations of fine and coarse. But any screw is going to be way better than a nail because you're actually drilling or wrapping that threads into the wood fiber.
Yes.
Right. So, but secondarily, on top of the rib, some ribs are relatively flat, but most of them have a bit of a belt curve to the top.
Right.
It's very tough to get a screw centered exactly where you want it. It's just more challenging. Yeah. Number two, it's hard to get it seated well with the washer because, again, it's a bell curve as opposed to a flat surface.
Right.
But probably more importantly, when you put it right beside the rib, you besides having a flat surface, your diaphragm effect of the building is much greater. And that's an engineering question, and we can give you all the pull outs and pull over and all this stuff for you and your engineer to look at if it's an engineered building that you need that information.
Yes.
But there's a diaphragm effect, which you understand, where the whole building, every brace, every cable, everything you put in that building has an effect on that building not moving, right?
Yep.
The diaphragm effect is much greater because you think about it, the washer, the screw to the steel to the wood is tight.
Right.
You put it up on the top, and it's what I think I want to call it fulcrum effect, but you got 3/4 of an inch
right
of movement. And so even with a screw, you're gonna go 3/4 of an inch before the threads get into whatever wood you have. And so you've got a pivot point there back and forth as it moves. And so the chances of a leak are still there, even with a screw, because of that. It elongates the hole or kin over time. And if you get a large amount of water or snow setting on it, it opens that up for the possibility. So now, with that said, I have customers, great customers, buddies, that all buy 2-inch screws because they all do them through the rib. And I am not going to tell them they're wrong, because I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that if you want my honest opinion, doing this 40 years, an honest opinion, talking about our engineers, talking to competitors, and see, that's the thing. It's not just us saying this. All my competitors will tell you the same thing. You put us all on here together.
Right.
And we may disagree, that I may think my thread's better and you may think your paint system, we may have all those back and forth. But the one thing that we will agree on is, in a perfect scenario, you ought to drill through the flat.
Right.
And that's why.
Yeah. That's my school of thought for many of the reasons you just said, and a few I just learned. So coming down to the rubber, the gasket, what are you telling how long are you telling customers to expect that to be watertight?
Well, that's a tough question, because people ask a lot of times, well, will your screws leak? Well, of course.
Right.
Because I can't control how you install it.
Right.
I can tell you that I have nothing with my fastener any better or any worse than any competitor when it comes to the fact of leaking or not leaking.
Right.
Every screw out there will leak, or every screw out there. The worst of my competitors, and I'll say the worst because they're all good people and good products. Yeah. Right. But none of them will leak on its own. Certainly. If it's installed properly. And contractors hate this. So anybody listening is going to say, I hate this Randy guy, because you just blame it on the installer. But I guess I'm going to be bold and say, yeah, I guess I am a little, because if you don't install it properly, it's just like an engine. An engine will run for 300,000 miles, except if you don't put oil in it. I at Ford Motor Company can't be responsible for that, right?
Certainly.
I can't be responsible if you don't install it correctly. Overdriving or underdriving equally are a problem. Now, with that said, washer itself, we all use an EPDM material. Yep. It's not the old neoprene. It's all EPDM. There's schools of thought on washer thickness. Most of the washers out there are bonded, which means they've got a steel or aluminum over the washer. That is a place for the head of the screw to seat against. Yep. Because if you just squish it into the EPDM material, it'll squash out. You don't want it to squash out.
Right.
But the material will last, decades if it's not exposed to the weather. See, it's designed to seal, and it's the best material out there today. And people say, well, why don't you have something? Isn't there something better? Not today.
Right.
When there is,
exactly.
There is, I guarantee you, one of us competitors, I'd like to hope it's us, right? But one of us competitors will start using it. We'll test. We'll start using it, and we'll come out and tell you on Ian's show that this is the greatest thing ever developed in the history of mankind, and we have it. But then what will happen is all the other guys will go, oh, geez, they're right. We got to do this too.
Yeah.
But until that happens, we all use an EPDM material, which is excellent material. The key there is to not get it exposed to UV. And so a lot of guys, it comes from the old days of nailing again. What do we do when we nail? Right? We nail, we pound it in, and what do? Let's have it. I would do it right now.
Right.
One or two more taps, right? Give it that last tap or two. We do that with screws sometimes, and it's a mistake for two reasons, but tight. That's it.
Right.
Washer engaged. That's it. That
Yeah.
extra one or two little pulls of the trigger, all that does is starts flattening that washer out.
Right.
And it starts opening up for leaks. You put a little dimple in the metal, which looks bad, especially on a cloudy day, right? You kind of see those little dimples, but it also opens that up for potential for leak. And as you squeeze that material out past the aluminum or steel upper layer, it's now exposed to UV, and UV will then start over time, starting that to deteriorate, which then can lead to micro fissures, which can then lead to leaks.
Right.
So, and then the other thing, what I'm talking about that, just as an FYI, is I don't know if any of your folks that will watch this use impact guns versus a screw gun.
That's what I'm talking about, getting in the weeds on this. Yeah. There are people who are watching this who know exactly what we're talking about.
So people say, what should we, is it okay to use an impact gun? No. I know you're going to. We all know you're going to. But you asked me a question, so I'm going to give you the honest answer. Right. As a screw guy, and I can again tell you that it's not just us, because all of my friendly competitors will tell you the same thing too. There's two problems with it. Not that an impact gun is a bad tool.
Right.
It's just, in our opinion, what we've seen is it's the wrong use is all.
Right.
Because you're putting a painted product, and regardless of how well you do with the paint, and we use a powder coat, some people do whatever type of paint system you're using, it's designed, when you put the nut driver on and it just is drilling the screw in, it's fine. When you start hammering it, there is an opportunity to start taking a little bit of paint off, or to have some micro fissures again.
Oh yeah.
And then that's when the paint gives away. Then the galvanization does its job, which is to sacrifice itself, right? Because that's what galvanized does. It heals, right? It heals over a wound, if you will, until there's no more. Yeah. Exactly. Until there's no more galvanizing to do that, then you have rust. So, and secondarily, it's hard to control an impact to get the exact setting that you want.
I found almost impossible. And again, to just go even further down the rabbit hole, the thing about using an impact gun or any driver on an exposed fastener with a gasket, once you've compressed the gasket, again, I'm not an expert on this, I would assume it's chipping away at its ability to keep water out.
Well, it is, because it's kind of the perfect porridge scenario, right? You really want it perfect, and you can get it perfect within realms of perfect, but perfect enough if you just take some effort and drive it just so that the seal is just snug against the metal. Not if it's too loose, it'll leak for obvious reasons. But if it's overdriven, it's equally as bad, because outside of squishing that washer out and potential for those kind of issues, it'll also, that little divot that you put in the steel, again, back to what we said before, besides looking bad, it creates a water trough, if you will, for water to get underneath.
Oh, absolutely right.
That little area, and so so underdriven or overdriven, bad and bad.
Right.
We actually, I don't know if we put it on anything anymore, but we used to have line art, right, of 3. Perfect.
Oh yeah.
We showed it underdriven and overdriven with a line through it, right? Don't do that.
I mean, that's on all the install instructions I've ever seen of screws like that. So, okay, let's wind this down. But I've got this other question right along those same lines that I think would be a great little discussion to end this on. Is, so when you see, let's just call them exposed fastener panels, exposed fastener steel, on a actual residence, on a house, just talk about your experience with the ideal setting for an exposed fastener steel panel, and if you would put it on a house, all that sort of stuff. Because those are, I know there's a couple houses down the street where I live that have an exposed fastener panel. It looks like the installation was done very, very well. All the cuts are really nice, but you got all these exposed screws, Yes, it's I saw millions
millions and millions of fasteners that go into residential all day long.
Okay.
More in the rural areas probably than in the cities.
Sure.
Because you get in the cities, sometimes they'll tend to be, if they're going to a metal, they'll tend to go either to the a concealed fastener, a standing seam of some type, or a metal shingle of some type, whether it's stone coated or painted, but some type, still a concealed fasten system. If it's installed properly and all the cuts are done properly, so there's no leak issues, and from an aesthetic standpoint, no issues.
Okay.
The fasteners will not be an issue again if it's installed properly.
Right.
The one thing that I would suggest for a residential is to use a long life fastener as opposed to a standard fastener. And again, we all of us in the fastener industry will have all the arguments of why. We can all do the dog and pony of why all these little really deep into the weeds why, well, mine's better than theirs.
Oh,
and
I
all
see.
that
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
But anybody's long life fastener is way better. And what that gives you is a product that's a 40-year warranty or longer versus a non-warranty, because the standard screw is non-warranty. Now, a good manufacturer, if you have a problem in 5 years, we're probably going to do something for you just because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
But technically there is no warranty. If you're going to put it on a house, arguably, probably for most people, the largest investment they have. Right. You're putting metal on because the belief, which I think is accurate, is it's one and done, right? You're done. You're not going to have to do this again. Why would you not put a 40-year fastener? And I say 40-year, that's just what we warranty it for. Technically, we can go a long, probably even longer than that, because any long life fastener out there, there's two options. There's stainless steel head, but that gets pretty expensive. Right. Or there's a zinc and aluminum alloy, which is what we have in our ZXL product, and our competitors have some version of that. And basically, that when you take zinc, it's usually on an average 50-50. Sometimes we put a little copper in for strength, but it's called 50-50 zinc and aluminum. When you add the aluminum ingot and it's molded down under like 800 degrees, and it's a one-piece cap, or not cap, but a one-piece head. Yeah. It will not rust because of the aluminum in the product. So even if you knocked all the paint off because you're up there with a crazy man with an impact gun and forget to shut it off for 12 minutes, you knock all the paint off, it'll look garbage, but it won't rust. And I call it now, with the increases now, I used to call it the $150 deal. Now let's call it a $200 deal. That's about the average cost, probably on an average home, to put a long life 40-year fastener versus a non-warranted fastener. And if you're going to spend with labor and everything else, I don't know, what's an average 30 square house with labor and metal? Right. $12,000-$14,000 at least, maybe more. Yeah, at least 20,000. Could you spend $200? Right. Yeah. Right. No. I mean, don't go out to dinner next month once. Right. Yeah. Right. It's like you're going to spend 19.5. Can you spend 20 even?
It's like that age-old question of, putting on someone's roof and you say, should we put the best ice and water shield down we can find or the cheapest? I mean, let's just use the best we can buy, because it's cost-wise.
Yeah, exactly. So with that, there's a lot of, and the other reason that they get used a lot, especially the fasten through systems that you're talking about, the rib panel, the ag panel, guys in in-home sales will refer to it as a rib panel, because people don't want to say ag panel and put it on my house, because they think hog barns or something, right? Right, sure. And it's just a conception or a perception that I guess as a sales guy you're not going to use, but a rib panel, in many cases, and probably most of the cases nowadays, you can install a ribbed panel fasten through system in the same price range as an asphalt shingle roof.
Oh, definitely.
And it's one and done. So, but even if it's a little more, the question there is, are you planning to stay in this house? Because if you are, and I don't want to down on asphalt. That's not my goal at all. But 12, 14, 18 years from now, you're going to be thinking about it again. I don't care what the warranty says. You're going to be starting to think about having to do a new roof again.
We could do a whole nother show, as you know, about the mathematics of.
Yes.
I mean, I say this all the time to everybody I know. Every asphalt manufacturer's data shows 12 to 17 years. I mean, I don't. It's not an industry secret. If it was an industry secret, I would tell it no matter what. But that's the facts. 12
right.
to 17 years, and then you drive down an old country road. I don't care where you are in the country, and there's a barn standing there with a tin roof that's 125 years old.
Exactly.
It's just the nature of things. But that's a really interesting point about the price of, I'll just say exposed fastener panel, in the difference between putting an architectural shingle on your house. Those prices are getting closer and closer together for I'm sure a lot of different reasons. But yeah, I've had a lot of discussions with friends and customers about, okay, if the prices are this close, what are we actually talking about here, right?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And I'm a steel or metal, whatever you want to call it, roofing guy through and through.
Right.
I think that you should be putting a metal roof on. The question then only becomes is color and what's the look you want, right? And that's the beauty of the industry is it's not, if you don't like the rib panel look, maybe if you like the standing seam look better, it doesn't if you feel comfortable that you don't have to worry about the exposed fastener, and that makes you feel better, you like the look of no fasteners, or you just like the look of standing seam, then that's another step up.
Yeah.
And now maybe you're getting a little bit more of a separation between asphalt and metal, but still it's not double by any means.
Right.
And that's where the advent of all this of the metal shingles, painted metal shingles, stone coated metal shingles. It all comes down to what look do you want, because a lot of times somebody will look at it, I'm not putting rib panel. I don't want look. That looks like my neighbor's barn. Not doing that.
Right.
I'm not putting standing seam because that looks like the office building down the street. That looks like my doctor's office building. I don't want it to look like a commercial building. It's a house. I want it to look like my neighbor's house. Well, okay. Well, there's a number of ways as an industry we can give you that. You can buy a painted shingle of some type.
Yeah.
You can buy one that looks like shake. You can buy one that looks like, or you can buy stone coated, and it really truly looks like an asphalt shingle unless you're standing right in front of it. So it all depends again on budget, comfort level. But I would I'd buy metal, and I know some good metal install sales metal guys that sell metal only. Their story, and I think it's a good story, is look, I don't sell asphalt shingles because I'm not going to have a fallback, because I believe you should have a metal roof. If you don't buy my metal roof, please buy somebody's metal roof.
Yeah, that's a great pitch.
Buy my competitors if you need to. If I can't get the budget where you want it, if you don't see the value in what I'm bringing, but please buy somebody's metal roof.
Yes.
And,
yes. No,
it's
great.
It's a great sales pitch, but it's truth, because it goes back to what we talked about earlier, Ian, where they don't get the big win because they didn't get the job, but it's one more metal roof out there that other homeowners are going to go, I like that metal roof, but I'm going to call Ian because I like Ian, or I've heard of Ian, or whatever the reason, as opposed to.
Yeah, you're completely right. That it's such it's always in the details, right? Once somebody understands, you're not comparing apples to apples with asphalt and metal. I'm sorry to say, that's a scientific fact.
Correct.
It's just the way it is. And once somebody starts to comprehend that, we could talk about this for the rest of the day, but then you get into the idea of what it actually costs. If you're not comparing apples to apples, comparing the costs is a whole different deal.
Sure it is.
When we talk about 17-year lifespans versus potentially 150-year lifespans.
Right. Well, and you hit on it earlier, and I know and this is we could do a 30-minute video on talking about the cost comparisons, but briefly, and I know I can, but you know this and could do it better than I. But okay, so let's say it's $5,000 more for this metal roof, because let's just say it is. So you pay $5,000 more today, but you do the math. We've all done this game, right? But 15 years later, you're going to spend whatever that shingle roof was and inflation.
Right.
And do it again. But guess what? The really cool thing is if you stay in that house long enough, you get to do it another time or two.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a place in the roofing industry for asphalt shingles. It's just important to talk about facts, scientific facts,
Right.
So I really, what gets, I think, non-building materials people's heads turning is this very well researched data point that if you go to sell your house, and your asphalt roof is essentially older than 5 years, the roof becomes a liability, not an asset. That's the nature of mathematics, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a metal roof on your house, unless you've lived in that house for 150 years, let's say, I would actually still go as far as to say it's going to be an asset. The metal roof is always an asset.
Correct.
It's not to say you're going to recoup every single dollar you paid for the roof, but you're not going to have somebody come and go, the roof's 10 years old, which I've done many times. The roof's 10 years old. This is the credit I need for it, or you should probably put a new. I mean, yeah,
right. Exactly. You're right, and that's a good point, because what I talked about earlier, and you're 100% right. If you're going to live there forever, it's a great deal.
Right.
But it's a great deal, like you're just saying, that if you're going to sell the house.
It's a great deal. I mean, it's what I really like about this conversation is we're not talking about like sales platitudes and cloudy concepts. These are two different materials trying to solve one specific problem.
Correct.
That's just the way it is, and there's a place for both products. But
well, sure there are, and there's a lot of guys out there that are excellent asphalt roofers. They do a beautiful job. Right. They use as good a product as is available.
Absolutely.
And you know what? If that at the end of the day, that's why I always say I'm a metal guy, but at the end of the day, that's the route you feel the most comfortable with and choose as a homeowner, as long as we as an industry in the metal industry explain to you what the facts. And I'm not going to hold that against you. If you want to buy asphalt, go ahead, enjoy it. And I hope it works great. I hope you're one of those that get 25 years out of it. Right. But all we can do is explain the differences, explain the facts, like you just talked about, and ask you to allow us to put that metal roof on. But if you choose to go a different direction, it's okay.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine. I mean, it's presenting the customer or any person that's interested in this information with I'll just say the scientific facts. It's
right.
That's what's so great about it is it's not, there's no facade to it. There's the reality, there's what it costs, there's how long it's going to last. That's
exactly. And it is fact. Because it would be different if there was no facts to back it up. But
right.
Randy, the roofing sales guy, just says metal's just better.
Yeah. And
well, how? I mean, that's like saying Burger King's better than McDonald's.
Right.
I don't like either, but that's personal preference.
Yeah.
There's no fact to that.
Yeah. Right? We could go down every building product out there, from siding to windows to nails to trim, and have the same conversation. That's why building products are, I mean, personally for me, so great, because it's all grounded on earth. It's real. You can pick it up, you can touch it, you can figure out how it works, how it doesn't work. Okay, well, let's just do a wrap up here. I mean, this was just a great conversation. I mean,
I loved it. I enjoyed it, man. This was good times.
I really liked getting into the weeds on metal roofing. We should definitely do it again. Maybe we should just do it once a month. I'm sure we could just
I'm open anytime, my friend. I as we talked about earlier, I love this kind of thing, and I think it's a benefit to you and I to do it. It's a benefit. And something you hit on real quick, if you don't mind, earlier, is the videos that you're doing. I want to shout out on those, because not only are they great, well done, and beneficial, but the one thing, and you talk about other people, builders and contractors, do these things and put them out there, because the one thing about virtual and the internet is the bad news is the good news. The bad news is don't do stupid, because stupid will always live there forever, right? But so does good, right?
Yeah.
Put it out there. And I mean, I've got stuff that I've done 3 years ago that all of a sudden it pops up with some comment that somebody found some video
right.
I did about something, and they're going, "Oh, I love this. I loved what you had to say about whatever." And I'm looking at it, and I go, "It was like 2.5 years ago."
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is that library just never goes away. It's always there. So
the library is so vital, and I just have really found with people, it just takes this like gear change in your head, this like light to go off, and you might think, okay, pain in the ass to film a video. I mean, I can essentially show most people how it's not really a pain in the ass, especially the way that YouTube is currently set up. And then you just have this library of content. So imagine you're a roofing contractor and you're talking to a homeowner and they say, I've had 5 quotes. Show me something I might not be aware of about a roof. You pull out your phone, you go to your YouTube channel, and you show your guy, I keep talking about this, putting on chimney flashing properly.
right.
I mean, that idea alone. So you got, and then you have all these multifaceted things going on. You've got showing a customer your team knows how to flash a chimney properly. You've got that video sitting on YouTube showing anybody in the world your team knows how to put on chimney flashing properly. You've got the ability to actually sell chimney flashing components in the description of the video. There's 3 ways to make money off that video just right there.
Right. Exactly.
It's a recruiting tool for your business. I mean, there's so many reasons to actually go ahead and do it against the reasons not to do it, which I also comprehend totally. So, yeah.
Exactly. Well said.
Yes, Randy, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for the time. I'll have this up shortly and we'll keep on trucking. And yeah, let's maybe try to do it once a month or something like that.
You got it. You reach out. I'm here.
All right, Randy. Thank you. Have
All
a great
brother.
day.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Ian.
See ya.